Oh, if I had a dollar for every time I got asked a question about this. I think a lot of people dig a little too deep, and the answer and solution to this question is actually pretty intuitive, and it's what your rest time should be. Now, let's talk about it in the context of building muscle, bodybuilding, when it comes to strength, endurance, things of that nature. It's going to be a little bit more nuanced, and I can touch on that a little bit later. When we talk about maximizing muscle growth, what does that mean for our training, right? What are we trying to get out of our training? We're trying to exert the max amount of force and effort, right? Push the most amount of weight, controlled, right? And take our muscles to as close to or to failure as possible, okay? Now, there are a lot of things that will affect that intensity and how close you could get to failure. First and foremost is going to be how much time you have in between sets and how rested you are. So think about it like this. If you were to be fresh and go, let's say you warmed up, right, in a perfect world and you did a set of bench press, right? That first set that you do is going to be the heaviest and most intense set that you could possibly do, right? Every set after that is going to be a little bit more affected because of the first set and the set before it and whatever else. The goal, obviously, with training for building muscles, you need volume, right? So you can't just do one set and leave, right? In a perfect world. So you have to manage the time spent in the gym, the amount of effort that you're putting in, the recovery, and how much weight you're doing. So generally, as a rule of thumb, I like to give a couple markers that you can use to show that you're rested enough. A lot of people will use some like very worthless time specific ones. For my clients, sometimes I'll give them time specific, especially in the beginning, because they don't really know how to utilize their time correctly or how to recover quickly between sets. So like giving them some sort of time goal works. But for the most part, okay, this 2.5 times the rest should be 2.5 times the amount of time it took you to complete the set. Like, what if you're not rested? What if you're not optimal? What if that's too long, right? So like setting a fixed number is not what's great in my opinion. What's also going to affect how much rest time you need and use is going to be the exercise you're doing, the length of the set, the intensity of that set, and that'll tie into these markers. So let me just dive right into it, okay? First and foremost, the amount of rest that you should be taking between sets is going to be determined by how ready are you for the next set, both physiologically and neurologically and mentally, okay? So if I'm out of breath, right, and my goal is to execute the next set as 100%, well, I probably should catch my breath. So cardiovascular is number one, right? I can't be out of breath. I can't be taxed. Now, if the goal is endurance or some sort of HIIT training or something like that, that's a different story. Cardiovascular, number one, okay? Number two, part of the cardiovascular system, more of the blood, are the lactates and the toxins and the waste products from that set. The burn, has that completely left the system? Now, I don't want it to be so long that I lose the pump, but I do want that to be flushed out, because if those metabolites are still there, it's going to affect your next set, okay? So being out of breath, okay, the toxins and waste products. Within that, your heart rate is a decent measure. So you don't need to be monitoring your heart rate the whole workout, right? But depending on how high your heart rate goes after the set, getting to a baseline is a decent spot. So that's kind of like a subtopic. Another big piece, do you mentally, probably one of the biggest, feel ready to give it your all? If you sit there and you're like, I need a little bit more, take a little bit more time, right? Now, if you're crunched for time, a little bit of a different subject, but that is probably the biggest factor in my opinion, is are you mentally ready to give it your all? Because that's how every set should be approached, right? Last but not least, do you physically feel like you can complete the next set to the full intensity? So kind of tied in the cardiovascular system, right? Kind of tied into the pump. But is just overall your body ready to do that, right? Are you ready to put it through that again, okay? It ties all that together. So those are like 4 with the sub, or maybe 3.5 important factors to look at. Now, resting too long, you start having conversations, you start getting distracted, you start going on your phone, like that takes you out of the mental loop, right? Your focus is now gone. You allow blood to flow out of the muscles and start to reduce that heart rate too much. And now you've taken, with that, you've also taken, yes, all the waste products are gone, but a lot of the nutrients, oxygens, and blood that are necessary for the muscle, right? So There is a little bit too little, a little bit too long. Now, if you want a general framework of what it should be, I tend, for me, and I believe I train pretty hard, but I'm always surprised when I can train harder and someone pushes me more. So for my, right, subjective evaluation of my training, I train hard. I find that for big movements, let's start with the medium movements. So like generally 80 to 70 to 80% of my movements, like the hamstring curls, the lat pull downs, the bicep curls, the row, the machine rows, about 3 minutes is good, right? Because the muscles are usually somewhat ready to go, but I'm still mentally and cardiovascularly taxed, okay? That's why cardio is super important. Cover that in another video. I would say for the larger movements, if I'm doing like a heavy leg press or hack squat or something like that, especially for like, let's say a stiff leg deadlift or some sort of hip hinge movement, I might rest up to 5 minutes, because I might also have a lot of blood pulled in my lower back or something like that might hinder me from executing the next exercise correctly, right? So just because the clock says a certain time, if I'm not ready, there's no point in me doing it, because that's also how you get injured. For some movements, I might do a little bit quicker, maybe like a lateral raise or a rear delt fly, or even honestly towards the tail end of my workout, like I'm just not able to push as much weight or effort anyway, so my rest times can be a little bit shorter. So it's all very subjective. All in all, rest times are very simple. It's very intuitive. The only time you need to actually create specific parameters is if it's starting to impact your gym time and efficiency with that time. If you need a shorter gym time, putting exercises back to back, doing drop sets and stuff like that, it'll change. But for a general rule of thumb, right, those markers that I told you are going to be best. If you enjoy this information, make sure to subscribe, comment down below with any questions, and if you'd like more information on what it'd be like to work with me one-on-one, you can actually hit the link in my bio in the description and submit that application, and I'll reach out to you. Or if I sent this video to you as a point of reference, you can reach back to me and be like, hey, Ian, I'd love to know what it'd be like to work with you. I will happily show you the exact steps for free.